Mumonkan, case number 11. Joshu sees the Hermits. Main case. Joshu went to a hermit's cottage and asked, "Is the master in? Is the master in?" The hermit raised his fist. Joshu said, "The water is too shallow here to anchor," and he went away. Coming to another hermit's cottage, Joshu asked again, "Is the master in? Is the master in?" This hermit too raised his fist. Joshu said, "Free to give, free to take, free to kill, free to save," and he made a deep bow. Mumon's comment. Both hermits raised their fists. Why was one accepted and the other rejected? Tell me, what is the difficulty here? If you can give a turning word to clarify this problem, you will realize that Joshu's tongue has no bone in it, now helping others up, now knocking them down with perfect freedom. However, I must remind you, the two hermits also could see through Joshu. If you say there is anything to choose from between the two hermits, you have no eye of realization. If you say there is no choice between the two, you have no eye of realization. Joshu already appeared twice before in our video series. In case number 1 of the Mumonkan, we had Joshu's dog. And in case number 7, we had "Go wash your bowl." And in this very case, Zen Master Joshu visits two hermits living in isolated cottages in the mountains. That was quite common in those days, but even today, when you visit some of these countries like Japan, Korea, China, Nepal, India, Bhutan, you will find often that monks who would typically have a training in a monastery, as part of their training would also spend quite some time, maybe 2-3 months, maybe 6 months, in a cave or in a cottage. That's part of their training. And it is that kind of hermits that Joshu is visiting, by asking each time, knocking at the door and say, "Is the master in? Is the master in?" But this is kind of cottages. It's not like a huge building with many rooms and many floors where you enter and you ask, "Can I speak to the manager, please, here? Or can I see the master over here, please?" No, it's just a small cottage, and probably there was not even a door. Probably Joshu could see the master right in front of him. So then the question is, why this question? What does he mean by this question, "Is the master in?" What Joshu probably meant is, what is the master of all phenomena? What is the master of this body-mind, of your body-mind? What is the master of all your thoughts, all your feelings, all your dreams? What is the master of all those things? Who is the master standing in front of him? Is that master there? And I invite you at home watching this to try to respond to this question also. Imagine Joshu visiting you and asking you, is the master in? What would you have said? Of course, the gesture that the two hermits made, it's often preferred in Zen tradition over a long verbal response. So it would probably be very unlikely that these hermits would say something like, oh yeah, hello, I'm here, I'm in. No. Or that they would say something like, I realize I'm consciousness, I'm awareness, which is the master of all phenomena, and therefore, yes, I'm in. Still too many words, just raising fist, presence of awareness. This is one interpretation of what this gesture may mean. Of course, you could try to find a reason like, oh, the first one was in a sleepy mind, in a sleepy state, he was full of daydreams, and his gesture was kind of, fake. And the second one was fully alert, was fully present. Awareness was there. Maybe that is why one was rejected and one was accepted. Who knows? Even that doesn't really matter, because the koan deals again with something slightly different here. And that's why it says, if you say there is anything to choose from between the two hermits, you have no eye of realization. So it really doesn't matter whether one fist was sleepy and the other fist was alert. The real question again is why Joshu, a great Zen master, judges the two hermits at all. Why is he expressing opinions about shallow, deep? Why is he labeling them as you are bad, you are good? Indeed, judging things, labeling things, dividing things between good and bad is truly dualistic. So how can the Grand Master of Non-Dualism fall into such a trap of dualism when it comes to these two hermits? And I believe that this is really the question that we have in front of us here. To render my interpretation of this koan, and of course there are many more, let me use one of my favorite Advaita metaphors, the oceans and the waves. So phenomena, they happen all the time, like waves coming up and down in the ocean all the time. One of these waves could, for example, be suddenly your phone rings. That's a phenomenon. And then our thinking mind gets into action and says, who could that be? Is disturbing me. That's what I call a secondary wave. Or the wave could be, who could be that? I'm curious. That would also be a secondary wave. The first one, good. The other one, bad. Doesn't matter. There are these secondary waves following the primary wave. So saying it's no good, it's too shallow, it's one of these secondary waves. Saying, on the other hand, this is good, this is bright, this is mighty, this is enlightening, that is also a secondary wave, a judgment. We are constantly in the business of criticizing everything that happens. We are constantly attracted by what we feel is to our advantage, and we constantly are rejecting that which is threatening to us. For example, one moment you meet a person in the street that is very amenable to you, and you accept, you judge him well. A moment later you meet someone who always criticizes you, and immediately you judge negatively. he's there again. What does he want? So that kind of dualistic action is going on all day, and it is tiring. It takes up all our energy because it's hopelessly discouraging to try to judge everything, because things are never really the way that this thing here imagines they should be. Anyway, this judging game takes place. Then you meditate and you learn to see that in fact the judging game takes place, but takes place where? This judging game takes place in what? It takes place somehow like on a stage. There is a play going on between puppets judging, and that takes place on a stage. What is that stage? That is what often then is referred to as the ocean. The ocean in which all the waves come and go at all the time. And that is then what can lead you to feeling more like ocean rather than being hooked to those waves. And that is when you come to non-dualism or oneness, which can be a very peaceful state of mind. Why? Because the judging game, as we already said, is very tiring. So when we can drop that judging game of judging everything all the time, it comes like a big relief. I don't have to judge everything anymore. I can just be open space of awareness in which everything can come and go. That reminds me of our good friend Shakespeare. One of his famous sentences is, "Nothing is good or bad, only thinking makes it so." And we go back to Joshu. He is expressing judgments, but none of these judgments are good or bad. It's thinking who makes it so. Of course, this kind of ocean-like being, where all the waves are just waves, also has deep consequences, and sometimes strange consequences. Because then, if we are no longer judging, how do you manage life? How do you deal with the fact that good and bad are just waves and are okay? Or a saint and a criminal are just two waves and they are okay. If you say that they are okay, we would live in kind of a strange world where bad actions would be all right, and that can also not be condoned somehow. Yet on the other hand, when we watch movies, we usually watch movies about criminals, and we very, very rarely watch a movie about saints where all the actors are so nice and so beautiful and so saintly. No, all the movies we constantly watch are about some kind of criminals doing wrong things. Why is it that we are so attracted by such negative waves? One should ask oneself that question. On the one hand, if you look at a piece of art, to give another example, like a Rembrandt, it's beautiful. And when you look at, for example, garbage in the street, it looks ugly. So this is dualism again, right? Good and bad, Rembrandts and garbage, a saint and a criminal. Yet, when you come to this non-dual experience of being ocean, a Rembrandt can be just as nice as garbage. And look what happens in today's modern art, where very often artists are no longer portraying something very beautiful and very refined, but they are portraying something negative, something that is not necessarily harmonious, just also, and that art is these days also being respected as good. So maybe these artists have some kind of inkling of what non-dualism may mean. Anyway, in short, some waves are waves of harmony and peace, and some waves are waves of destruction and negativity. And the meditative state in which we only identify with ocean or awareness is, however, not the end of the story. And now we have to come back a little bit to Joshu, because that kind of ocean-like state, it never lasts forever. It's always going to be limited in time. A true wise person who is in constant playful samadhi in the middle of daily life has both aspects simultaneously. I mean, he acts like waves, he judges like waves, yet at the same time, he does not forget that what he deeply, truly is ocean. So viewed from his body-mind aspect, such a person can judge good and bad, shallow and enlightened, and viewed from his awareness aspect, he also remembers everything is just waves. Now let's apply this to our koan. Joshu profoundly knows he is ocean, yet he allows for judging waves to arise when he visits each hermit. Yet he can do so without having any attachment. And there lies all the difference. He does not forget his ocean-like nature. So Joshu may judge one hermit and the other one differently. Deeply inside, he also knows it doesn't matter. They're both waves. And maybe by turning down the first hermit, he helps him by giving him a gentle, loving push. Come on, you must still practice more to truly get real understanding. Instead of saying that, he turns away and says, it's too shallow here. It just gives him a little gentle blow in the hope that this hermit may evolve with that. And by praising the second hermit, he recognizes his true nature of this one, and he recognizes that we are all one ocean. But one can also interpret these two judgments differently. Maybe the second one that got accepted was in fact a real beginner of practice, and he needs encouragement to start, And with newcomers, you will often see Zen masters being overly complimentary. Oh, you already got it. Oh, how wonderful. And the first one who got rejected, he was maybe the mature hermit who did not need such an ego boost, who did not need such an encouragement, but needed to work on some of his ego-related reactions of being rejected. Who knows what Joshu's thinking was? It was just in the moment. He was totally free to come up with a reaction on the one wave and then another reaction on the other wave. And it came without long thinking and explanation, just came up like waves spontaneously. Anyway, as a summary of this koan, take a few moments today to see how much the judging game is taking place in your own thinking mind. See how every action you undertake in usual daily circumstances are constantly clothed with some kind of judgmental thought. And then see if you can just see things differently, with a more open mind, with a more ocean-like mind. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.